Dani entered her marriage to Andre with a serene, practiced smile, but deep in her heart she had never escaped her longing for Bill. Andre was the perfect model of a husband, steady, composed, devoted. Yet love is not always enough to heal wounds etched deep by the past. The scorching, dangerous kiss Dani gave Bill in his office licked like fire across every tired nerve in her, a release that was both sweet and terrifying. She didn't know whether she truly loved Andre or was merely using the marriage to run from the obsession Bill left behind. At times, Dani fooled herself into thinking she held all the strings, that Bill was just a pawn she could use to test Andre's loyalty. But the instant their lips met, everything shattered. She no longer knew who really controlled this game, because she herself seemed to be slowly losing any claim to it. Bill, meanwhile, could not climb out of his spiral of guilt. Doug's death haunted him like a ghost in heavy dreams, jolting him awake at night slick with cold sweat. He hadn't meant to push Doug toward death, but the brutal truth was that he had sown the seeds of the tragedy. Dani re-entered his life like a sweet poison. With her, he felt alive again, able to forget the weight of the past for a few fleeting moments. Yet Haley still stood at his side, the woman who had stayed, who had shared the difficult years. He loved Haley in his own way, a love built on responsibility, but it could not smother the blaze Dani ignited. Greed can turn a person into a monster, and Bill teetered on a ledge between the safety of Haley's arms and Dani's deadly heat. If Haley learned the truth, he might lose everything. But if Dani saw the disgust roiling inside him, would she turn away or be pulled even deeper into the mire? Haley sensed every subtle change in her husband's eyes, his voice, his gestures. Love attuned her to the empty spaces Bill tried to hide. She planned a romantic getaway, hoping private moments might stitch them back together, but his cold refusal shattered her heart. Haley began to wonder if she clung to the marriage out of genuine love, or from fear of losing her status, fear of watching the image of the perfect wife collapse in the eyes of the world. She tried to convince herself Bill still loved her, that things could change, but deep down, she knew she was lying to herself. Everything unraveled faster when Caroline, Haley's closest friend, revealed the truth about the stolen kiss between Bill and Dani. The shards from the glass Haley hurled to the floor mirrored the fury raging inside her. The humiliation of being betrayed within the supposedly sacred space of a marriage ignited a wildfire. Haley stormed into Bill's office, not only confronting him but tearing away his moral mask in front of his colleagues. Still burning, she went after Dani and dragged her into a blistering showdown. Dani didn't flinch. Instead, she provoked, taunted Haley's hurt as if turning another's pain into her private victory. The two women hurled themselves at each other, bringing hatred, love, jealousy, and the hunger to possess. Bill had to intervene, but his interference could not erase the new, deep cracks carved into all of them. After the chaos, Haley stood at a crossroads: divorce or stay. Pride urged a clean break. A trembling heart whispered of a vanished love. Dani was smug at having driven Haley past reason, but the triumph was brief, leaving behind a terrifying emptiness. She realized that even if she destroyed Haley, she still wouldn't gain anything whole from Bill. As for Bill, torn between two women, would he accept Haley's decision to divorce or try to hold on? Caroline didn't stop after lighting the fuse. She pressed Haley to strike back by hosting a trap-laden dinner with everyone present: Dani, Bill, and Andre. Caroline insisted it was for friendship's sake. But was it? Was she trying to bring Dani down? Or did she herself harbor a secret longing for Bill? The dinner became a stage where every glance and smile concealed a design. Andre began to doubt his wife's loyalty. Bill was cornered into choosing. Haley stood before her chance at revenge, and Dani had to confront the dangerous game she herself had launched. In this war with no victors, every decision carved a wound. Dani could lose Andre, Haley could lose her self-confidence, Bill could lose everything, and Caroline might reveal her true face at last. All were sucked into a whirlpool of hatred and passion where the boundaries between love, betrayal, and power blurred, and once crossed, there would be no way back. Dani had been devastated by her divorce from Bill, but life seemed to right itself when Andre appeared. He was kind, capable, respectful, and never let her want for anything. Yet the more love he gave, the more suffocated Dani felt. She could not banish Bill's shadow, a former love that left scars both deep and bittersweet. Each memory made her heart tremble between pain and desire. That dangerous kiss in Bill's office wasn't just a reckless lapse. It was an admission that she would never fully escape the pull of the past. Dani told herself she was testing limits, testing Andre's patience and even Bill's control. But in truth, she was the one losing direction. She had never truly known what she wanted: a stable marriage or a feral love. Every choice felt like playing with fire, and deep in her mind she was both frightened and thrilled to realize she could destroy everything with a single wrong move. She relished making Haley jealous, even savored the moments when Andre failed to notice how much she had changed. But that glee always left an indescribable emptiness. The more she provoked, the more trapped she became in a darkness of her own making, slowly turning into a hostage of the very power game she thought she controlled. Bill moved through each day as if carrying an invisible sentence on his back. Doug's death gave him no peace. It carved deeper into his mind night after night. The memories of that fateful moment replayed until he saw himself as a murderer dressed in a polished executive suit. Dani came as an exit, but a poisonous one. In her arms, he found release and at the same time quicksand. He loved Haley in a very different way. She was the wife who had walked beside him, the emblem of stability. Haley was what he needed to hide his weakness from the world. Yet the primal pull toward Dani, the unquenchable heat, shoved him down the path of betrayal. Bill split his soul in two, greedy to hold both women without letting go of either. He knew how vile that was. He knew the truth would crush Haley, and perhaps repulse Dani if she saw the full extent of his darkness. But he couldn't stop, because fear of loss and dread of punishment kept pushing him to the edge. When Dani and Haley clashed and he was forced to step in, Bill realized he had let the two women he loved at once fall into a no-exit war, and he had lit the fuse himself. He knew that if Haley chose divorce, he would lose the only wall that sheltered him. But if Dani walked away, he would lose the feeling of being fiercely alive. Bill was no longer a strong man. He was lost in the ambition of desire, trapped in a game of his own making. In the end, Haley was the one most deeply wounded. She loved Bill, or at least the version of Bill she once knew. The man who was strong, protective, and supportive. But as things changed, as his gaze strayed, she started to crumble piece by piece. She tried to save them with a romantic trip, clinging to the belief that love could mend anything. But Bill's icy refusal laid the truth bare. His heart no longer belonged wholly to her. When Caroline exposed the kiss between Bill and Dani, Haley plummeted into a chasm. Rage transformed her into someone else. Someone who could no longer remain calm. Someone willing to strip her husband bare before his co-workers. Honor be damned. When she charged at Dani, it wasn't just jealousy. It was the desperate scream of a woman terrified of being replaced. But when the chaos ebbed, Haley found herself at a fork in the road. She could divorce to keep her dignity, or beg in despair to keep the man who once meant everything. She didn't know which choice was right, because both made her heart bleed. Meanwhile, Caroline, like a snake in the dark, was the one who dripped venom into a marriage already beyond saving. She revealed the kiss not merely to protect Haley, as she claimed, but out of murkier motives. Was she jealous of Dani, ever radiant and magnetic? Or did she harbor ambitions regarding Bill? The dinner Caroline arranged was a perfect trap where every puppet would expose its strings. Dani had to face Andre, a husband awakening to betrayal. Bill would be forced to choose. Haley would get her chance at revenge, and Caroline would sit back and watch like a director savoring her own production. Her eyes swept the table, catching every fracture, and with a word here or a deft arrangement there, she could turn the meal into a battlefield. It stopped being dinner and became a war zone where truth, lies, betrayal, and ambition tangled. Every clink of a glass, every toast dripped with subtext, and every glance could be a knife to the heart. Caroline turned it all into a game, but whether to help her friend or to delight in the wreckage, no one could tell that I end this picture. No one is innocent. Dani drowned in weakness disguised as power. Bill slid down the slope of greed and guilt. Haley suffocated in a love laced with illusion, and Caroline hid her nature beneath the mask of friendship. The dinner was only the beginning. After it, nothing would ever be the same. The clash at the table did not unfold like a controllable scene. It became a true catastrophe. Lies and accusing looks ripped apart the thin veil over family, friendship, and relationships already frayed. Andre, devastated to learn that Dani had used him as a tool for her revenge, simply left the table without a word, leaving a cold emptiness heavier for Dani than any accusation. The door closing behind him was a silent verdict, and for the first time Dani realized she had lost not only love but respect, the one thing she had always believed Andre would never withdraw. His exit wasn't an explosion. It was a silence that made her collapse from within. Haley, by contrast, did not choose silence. She filed for divorce immediately, a declaration of victory and a sentence for Bill. For so long she had been caught in the whirlpool of deception, trying to hold on to something she knew was already dead. But that moment at the table finally clarified everything. Bill would never choose just one. He was greedy. He wanted both Haley and Dani, and that greed had destroyed it all. Divorce was not only release, it was Haley's rebirth. Yet that rebirth was bitter, because to claim it she had to surrender a piece of her life she once believed indestructible. Bill was the one who fell the hardest. He lost Haley, lost Dani, and could no longer keep the facade of a stalwart man. He spiraled daily. Guilt over Doug's death, unbridled desire for Dani, and the loss when Haley turned her back. His true portrait came into focus. A weak man in a strong man's mask, a manipulator who thought he could keep everything and ended up with nothing. In the instant he realized Dani and Haley had joined forces, Bill saw himself shut out of the very game he'd thought he ruled. The women were no longer enemies tearing each other apart. They had become allies with a larger goal, protecting themselves and exposing the manipulator. What changed Haley wasn't only Bill's betrayal but also the truth about Caroline. By chance, Haley saw Bill and Caroline together. Their eyes, gestures, and intimacies stunned her. That moment stabbed into a wound not yet healed. If Dani was the obsession of the past, Caroline was the betrayal of the present. A friend, a woman Haley had trusted, could turn love, honor, even her survival into tools for a sick psychological game. That truth didn't crush Haley. It drove her to the brink of ruthless counterattack. She began to understand that in this world, only those who act first avoid being ground to dust. The alliance between Dani and Haley was born from the very humiliation they had inflicted on each other. They had clawed and torn at one another for a man, only to realize Bill didn't deserve to be the center of any war. Both of them were mere pieces on a larger board, one arranged by Bill and Caroline, or worse, sparked by Bill and exploited by Caroline. Dani found in Haley a sympathy she'd never expected. Haley saw that Dani wasn't her only enemy. In this handshake there was no real friendship, only a strategic pact to bring down a common foe. The biggest question still hangs in the air. What does Caroline want? If she truly has feelings for Bill, then everything she's done, exposing the kiss, goading Haley, laying the dinner trap, was just a sequence of moves to remove Dani and Haley from his life. She didn't need to say it. Her actions proved it. She wanted Bill for herself. Consequences be damned. Haley now saw the game clearly, and her rage no longer aimed solely at Bill or Dani. It condensed into a hatred for Caroline, the puppeteer who turned her into a plaything in a cruel performance. But the game isn't over, because in the shadows a secret could shake everything. Doug isn't truly dead. If Doug reappears, if he comes back from the edge to expose the truth, Bill will be forced to face his real guilt. Doug would not just be the ghost in Bill's mind, but living proof capable of blowing his life apart. In that case, Dani and Haley wouldn't need to keep fighting, because truth itself would become the weapon that destroys Bill. And Caroline, would she cling to her scheme, or be swept away in the flood? At Fairmont Crest, everything is only beginning. A marriage collapses, a friendship turns to enmity, a man's mask is torn off, and a ghost from the past may return. The push and pull of betrayal and greed will keep widening the cracks. And once someone drives a poisoned needle into those cracks, they become chasms no one can escape.